Hi friends, I'm Jeffy G. There's been a lot of hype and interest in mastering these days. Logic 10.8 came out with mastering included, which is great, and Ozone 11 is available from Izotope, and there's Lander out there, which is a new player. The point is, all of these tools are designed so that you can do your own mastering without hiring a professional mastering engineer. But there's a problem with this. You're relying on one set of ears. The decisions you make in mastering are already biased. I composed the song, I composed the beats, and I picked all the sounds and did the sound design. I did all the tracking and arranging and editing. I did all the mixing. I did all the mastering myself. If you hired a professional mix engineer or a mastering service, you were getting more than just the technical skills. You were getting another set of ears, another human listening to your song, your composition, with a new interpretation of what it should sound like. If you did the mixing and then you do the mastering, there's a good chance that you're not that objective. There's already a bias built into the way you did the mixing. Chances are the mastering is going to sound very similar. You're either going to push the boundaries too far or not be as subtle in the mastering as a professional would be. It's just human nature that we want to see how much we can change the music in the mastering process, but that's not really what it's for. Let's just remember that the primary objectives of mastering are to control the loudness and the overall EQ. There are these secondary mastering objectives like clarity, consistency, especially if you're doing a whole album, you want all the songs to have kind of a consistent sound, and potentially polishing up the mix. This one is debatable because how far you go into fixes during the mastering process is a question mark. You should really be going back to the mixing phase if there are major fixes to be done, but there are some minor things that you can do in the mastering phase. Let's take a look at the Logic mastering and Ozone 11. Here I've opened a Logic project. It has about 60 tracks in it, and I did the mix on this many years ago. And you'll see in the output section over here on out 1 and 2, does hit into the red with plus 3 dB. Here's what it sounds like. So this is without any mastering, and you can only turn the mastering on in Logic on the output tracks. You can't assign mastering to just any track like a normal plugin. So before I turn it on, I've highlighted with the cycle tool an area of my song which includes a verse and a chorus because I want to limit the analysis to just that section. Click on mastering, you'll see it goes through its analysis process, and it comes up with this EQ curve. That EQ curve is going to modify the sound, but also manage the loudness. So let's hear it. And I'll turn on bypass. Not much change, is there? In fact, it may be lowering the volume. Because my volume is exceeding 0 dB, you can see it's popping up into 3. If I reset this, we'll keep it at that minus 1 dB level. Let's try turning off the whole plugin. So in my case, the mastering is actually lowering the volume, whereas the more typical scenario is it would increase the volume. In this EQ section, you can control how much of that EQ is being applied. There's a dial here. If you put it down to 0, it's not modifying the sound beyond your mix. And if you increase it, of course, you're going to hear more of the effects of the mastering tool coloring the output. And you can modify this EQ yourself. High pass filter and low pass. You can actually play around with these things if you want. Let's just hear it. So anytime you modify the EQ settings and you want to go back to the analysis settings, you click on this custom EQ, goes back, click on custom EQ, and you can see what you've modified. Now there are things called EQ characters. The least colorful is the one called transparent, and that's the one it usually starts with. That one is the most subtle. The clean setting is more for exactly what it says, a clean and punchy sound. It's good for EDM and acoustic music. The valve setting is to mimic tube smoothness from tube amps. It's good for acoustic recordings that have a low deep end and a crispy top end. Punch is exactly what it means. It boosts the mid-range, ideally for rock, to add more punch. I like the transparent setting because I want my mastering to have the least change to the mix that I made in the first place. Now over here to the loudness area, I can adjust the loudness with this dial. So I could increase it. And there is a tendency to increase the loudness because everything sounds better when it's loud. I could decrease the loudness if the song is mixed too high, as is the case in mine. And down at the bottom of this, there's basically a loudness compensation button, which is really loudness defeat. When I'm playing the song, I can hear what it sounds like with or without the loudness. So you can hear in my case with the loudness compensation turned on, when I click on that button, it actually goes back to the volume of my mix, which is greater than 0 dB. The last section is spread, which is stereo spread, and it adds width to the stereo image. If you want to hear your mix in mono, you can dial this all the way back to the left side. Generally speaking, by default, it's going to add a little bit more stereo spread to color your song. It's good to understand what these LUFS meters mean. And one of the ones down here is I, which is the integrated loudness units for the entire song. So when it's playing, the I meter doesn't show until you click on start. Let me show you what I mean. And you'll see the LU range is being tracked here. If you want to reset it, you click on reset and click start again. The loudness units is different than the true peak. So here I've got the true peak set to -1. I don't want the song to clip, and so I've got 1 dB buffer between 0, but I do want to see where the overall integrated song sits. So when I talk about my bias, I just want to show you what I'm likely to do. It's a bit of a confession here, but I'm likely to increase the loudness because I like to hear things louder. I want to hear the impact of that EQ curve for the master. I might increase the stereo spread slightly, and I'm likely to click on this Excite button. It adds saturation to the upper and mid frequencies to add a bit of sparkle. So these are all modifications to my mix. And really, I shouldn't touch these things. I should just leave it as is because I did mix the song. Let's just go. I'm going to play the song and just go through what these things are doing. First, I'm going to just adjust cycle range, and then I'm going to reanalyze that section. And it's all right, baby. It's all right. I will see you, be with you, see it tonight. And it's all right, love. It's all right. I'll see you, be with you, see it tonight. You want me in the morning? You better carry me over. All right tonight. You want me in the evening? You better carry me over. All right tonight. Ooh. And that's the issue, really, is that my bias kicks in and I want to change the sound of my song while I'm doing the mastering. And I'm changing it the way I want to hear it because I'm the composer, I'm the guy that did the mixing, and I'm taking advantage of all these features. Ozone 11 Advanced is a very sophisticated piece of software that takes mastering in a whole new direction. I've got my Logic project open, like the one we listened to before. And it's alright, baby. It's alright. But I've chosen a different section and just highlighted this position. This is a louder part of the song that I want to use as the mastering input. Now, the thing about Ozone is that you can actually add it to any track, but it makes the most sense, of course, to add it to the same stereo out where we were using the Logic mastering. So I'm just going to load it in here, just increasing the size here a bit so it's easy to see. And there's really two pages to this. There is the and it's alright, baby. It's alright, I will see you, be with you, see it tonight. And it's alright, love. It's alright, I'll see you, be with you, see it tonight. You want me in the morning, you better carry me over. And what it's done here is determined by listening to that section of the song. This song fits a rock profile, and that's the EQ, the overall EQ curve that you're seeing in the equalizer. And from this assistant page, it's divided up into the tone balance, loudness, and then all your extras are sort of here on the right. And on the left, you've got these target genres that may or may not your needs. And to the degree to which you believe your song fits into one of these genres, you can change this real time. And the details page shows you everything that Ozone has decided to add. And you'll see there's quite a bit here. There's the master rebalancing. There's EQ1, something called impact. There's an imager, the new clarity module, stabilizer, dynamic EQ, which you can think of as being your secondary EQ, and the maximizer. There are more that you could add. You've got an exciter, something called low-end focus, match EQ, the spectral shaper, and there's some vintage settings here down at the bottom that you could use. So there's a lot more features in this than there is in the Logic mastering tool. The Logic mastering tool really just focuses on this first page. It's kind of the trial and listen method. And it's alright, baby. It's alright, I will see you, be with you, see it tonight. And it's alright, love. It's alright, I'll see you, be with you, see it tonight. You want me in the morning, you better be over. Over here, you're controlling how much emphasis you place on that equalizer fitting that profile. So when you increase this up, more of the tonal shaping is designed to fit that R&B soul curve. And if you pull this down, less. That kind of feature from 0% to 100% also existed in the Logic thing. So it's not the first time you're seeing it. And it's the same with the maximizer. That's controlling the loudness. So we'll keep it on that R&B setting and just adjust those to see if you can hear the difference. And it's alright, baby. It's alright, I will see you, be with you, see it tonight. And it's alright, love. It's alright, I'll see you, be with you, see it tonight. I can drastically change the tonal shaping, the loudness, all of the vocal balancing and extras that are being added in. But if I want to go to the next level, I can click on the details page and look at those individual pieces. So let's just start here with the primary equalizer. You've got some choices here. You've got analog or digital equalization. The profile of this, you can tweak yourself. You can adjust the low shelf and the high shelf, and you can make changes to the mid if you're not that happy with the determined equalization for that target profile. And that's the same for things like impact. And off on the right here, you've usually got these meters will show you whether you're pushing the gain up into the red, as I seem to be doing here, or whether you've got gain matching turned on so that the loudness might be increasing, but the general gain of the mix is coming through. It's being applied. Imager. For each one of these, there's usually something called a delta button. So let's say you've got the imager and you just want to see what's the impact of the imager. Put it on solo and we can hear it. And off to the left here, we've got this delta button, which lets you hear just the impact of the changes the imager is making.
Want me in the morning, you better carry me over.
We can do the same with the clarity piece. Is a really nice way to understand what each one of these pieces does. So there's a degree of control that you get with Ozone that you don't get with a lot of other mastering tools. It goes far beyond what your basic mastering would do. The other thing they have in here, which is quite impressive, is this idea of stem-focused modifications. So right now, we've got things set to the full mix. Everything that we hear is the full mix. That's this little icon here. But if we just want to focus on one of what they call the stems, we can click on this one, which is just the vocal processing. And we can apply these types of tone shaping, dynamics, de-essing, and EQ to just the vocals. We can do the same for drums, and we can do the same for bass. These capabilities go far beyond your typical mastering in that they prevent you from having to go back to the mix, going back to the mixing stage to tweak changes. So if you're not happy with, say, the vocal equalization, you can make modifications here that will only affect the vocals and leave the rest of the mix untouched. It's isolating just the vocal frequencies, just the vocal part of the track, and they call that stem focused. The output level is set by default to full scale, but if you want to, the same -14 LUFS setting that's used for a lot of the streaming services, you can just set that to streaming, and this level of loudness will not exceed the limits that Spotify and Apple Music typically are looking for. Let's pick a different genre, the one that it identified, which was rock. Let's lower the equalization to sort of the midpoint. And the loudness, remember this song is a little bit over driven and occasionally clipped. So I'm going to just reduce the loudness there a little bit. And then you can just listen to me sort of play around with that mix.
And it's alright, baby. It's alright, I will see you, be with you, see you tonight. And it's alright, love. It's alright, I'll see you, be with you, see you tonight. You want me in the morning, you better carry me over. Want me maddening. You better carry me over. Alright tonight. You want me in the evening. You better carry me over. Alright tonight. It's alright, baby. It's alright. It's alright, love. It's alright. I'll see you, be with you, see out at night. You want me in the morning, you better carry me over. Alright tonight.
Once again, my mixing bias is shining through here in that I'm not content to just accept what Ozone 11 determines through its analysis are the best practices to be applied to this mix. And I've gone ahead and done further tweaking. I like the rock setting, so I'm pushing the EQ tone shaping for that. I'm taking advantage of the transient sustain processing in some cases just to increase a bit more of the low end. And there are other options that take advantage of this spectral processing. There's not just the clarity module, which they've added, and it can be very subtle, but they've added some other things like low end focus, spectral shaper, and the stabilizer. And you can find out more about how those work by watching a full tutorial. But my point is that this mastering tool goes beyond the basic technical requirements of mastering your song for tone balance and loudness and gets into all of these detailed tools that will let you further adjust the sound, the mix, and the style of your songs. A big plus for these plugins is that they're fairly low cost compared to hiring a professional mastering engineer, and you can do your own mastering pretty much on every track, whether you plan to release it or not. In my case, I've always used a third party for mastering. I'll probably continue to do that, but I'm going to use these tools on a day-to-day basis so that I learn a little bit more about what mastering does and how it affects my product. The delivered Logic mastering is pretty simple. It accomplishes some of the core mastering tasks, the things you might consider best practice, but it doesn't go much further. Whereas Ozone 11 does a lot more. There's more options, there's more capabilities there. You can use it not just on the mastering track, but you can use it on individual tracks as well. So in my opinion, Ozone 11 still has a huge lead in the marketplace. I'm not sponsored by any of these vendors, so my opinions are just my opinions. Hopefully you find it interesting, and maybe I can bring a new perspective to the whole hype around mastering your productions. If you like this video, click on the like button, leave me a comment. Consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.